Chapter 1. The car ride over was a blur of anticipation. I spent most of it picturing Jake's grinning face and the way he used to swing me in a wild, awkward hug whenever I arrived at our house from sleepaway camp or a long school trip. His laugh always came first, a big golden retriever laugh that filled up even the quietest rooms. Mom and Dad were flying to California for some charity event this weekend, so tonight was my first dinner at Jake and Sarah's new place, and I'd packed my best sky blue sundress. Jake opened the apartment door before I even knocked, his eyes crinkling the same way they'd always done, and for a moment, the years since his wedding just melted away. He reached down and tousled my hair, not like I was 14, but like I was 6 and invincible. There's my favorite little sister, he said, though I was his only one. Sarah's voice echoed from somewhere deeper in the condo. Jake, don't keep the door open. You'll let in bugs. She appeared suddenly, almost materializing. Petite and composed, her curls tamed into a glossy bun and her makeup like something out of a magazine. She smiled at me, teeth barely showing, her arms folded in a way that made me feel like I'd already done something wrong. Hi, Emily, she said. Her tone was sweet but distant. Come in, we're just finishing setting the table. Their apartment was twice the size of our old childhood home, but it felt oddly sterile, like everything was perfectly staged for a housewarming magazine spread. Sarah led me into the dining room, which was set with gleaming white plates and stemware, soft music playing low. There were 6 seats, but only 3 were filled. Jake at the head, Sarah across from him, and an empty spot for me. I sat down, smoothing my skirt. The candlelight gleamed on the wineglasses and the food, stuffed chicken breast, salad with pomegranate seeds, roasted golden potatoes, looked as perfect as a cooking show set. Sarah hovered beside my chair a moment, then leaned in and said quietly, Actually, Emily, would you mind eating in the kitchen instead? Jake and I wanted to have some time with the Millers before they head out. She gestured vaguely at the other 2 place settings. I blinked, not understanding. But there's room, I started. It's just, adults at the main table tonight. You'll be more comfortable in the kitchen. We set out a plate for you. It was said firmly, but with a strange, brittle politeness. I looked at Jake, hopping for an intervention. His jaw twitched and his eyes flickered away. Yeah, it's okay, right? I'll come check in on you, Jake mumbled, not meeting my eyes, rubbing the back of his neck. The words settled over me slowly, like snow piling up. I stood up so carefully, afraid even the scrape of my chair might be too loud. The kitchen was bright, all marble and stainless steel, but the air felt cold. On the counter was a plate, smaller than the others, no silver or stemware, just a glass of water with a single slice of lemon. I sat on a bar stool, swinging my legs and staring at the food, trying not to let any tears slip down my cheeks. From the dining room, laughter floated through, the kind of laughter that people share when they all belong. I tried to focus on eating, but every bite lodged in my throat. I picked at my vegetables, eavesdropping on their muffled conversation. Sarah was telling some story about her cousin's engagement, making it sound glamorous and exclusive. Jake laughed at something she said, but it was forced, a sound I'd never heard from him before. This wasn't how I pictured it. I'd spent the whole week making Sarah a tiny, welcome to the family scrapbook, with Polaroids of childhood moments and little watercolor doodles. I'd even scribbled a note on the last page. Can't wait for more adventures together. Now, that scrapbook sat heavy in my backpack beside the bar stool. My excitement scraped raw, replaced by a slow burn of humiliation. I imagined Mom and Dad at their hotel across the country, probably sipping wine and missing us, trusting Jake to make me feel at home. I could hear Mom's voice, gentle and matter-of-fact. Remember, honey, you're always welcome wherever your family is. But now, I was beginning to doubt. The laughter grew louder. They were talking about vacationing in the Keys next spring. I'd been left off the guest list before the planning even started. After what felt like an eternity, Jake ducked his head into the kitchen, his smile brittle. You okay, Em? He looked over my plate. Need anything? I opened my mouth to answer but saw Sarah's silhouette behind him, arms crossed. Jake's shoulders tensed. I'm fine, I said, my voice a little too bright. He nodded, relief fluttering across his face at my easy capitulation. He tousled my hair, too gently this time, like he was daring Sarah to get angry. We'll hang out after dinner, all right? I'll show you my new guitar. But his eyes had already drifted away, pulled by gravity towards Sarah's expectations. After he left, I dropped my fork and pressed my fingers to my temples. I closed my eyes and let myself feel it, the sharp, contagious loneliness blooming inside me. I dreamed about these dinners, about being grown up enough to join adult conversations and laughter. Now, all I could taste was the bitterness of being invisible. Later that evening, alone in the guest room Jake had barely bothered to decorate, I pressed my face against the pillow and tried to imagine next time. Maybe, I told myself, Sarah would warm up. Maybe Jake would stand up for me, or maybe tonight was a misunderstanding. But even then, a small, stubborn piece of me curled up deep inside, determined to survive. Maybe, just maybe, I didn't need their table to belong. Not forever. But for tonight, it was enough just to keep the tears at bay. I held my breath as Jake opened the door. I was so happy I felt jumpy inside. This was my first dinner at his house since he married Sarah. I hugged my scrapbook tight against my chest. I worked on it for hours just for her. I wanted her to like me. I wanted us to be sisters. Emily, you're here, Jake said. I smiled at my brother. Hi, Jake, I said. He gave me a quick hug. Not a long hug, just fast. He used to let me climb onto his back and spin me around. But all he did now was pat my shoulder, and then look over his shoulder like he was checking for someone. Sarah stood in the hallway. She was so pretty with shiny hair and a bright dress. She didn't smile much. When she did, it was small and quick, like she was hiding something. Welcome, Emily, she said. Thank you, I said. My voice sounded tiny. She looked past my head, then turned toward the dinner table. I followed her. The table was pretty. The dishes shined and there were candles and napkins folded like boats. There were 4 chairs. 3 plates had napkins, forks, knives, fancy glass cups. 1 plate was missing a glass and napkin. Can I sit here? I asked. Sarah shook her head. No, actually, that's for Mrs. Miller. She's our neighbor. She's joining us for dinner. Oh, I said. I looked at the chairs, confused. There was space for me, but the table only had everything set for 3 people and a guest. Sarah moved fast. She picked up a plate from the kitchen counter. It had only chicken and salad on it. Emily, you'll eat in the kitchen, she said. I stared at her, my voice shook. But I thought we'd all eat together, I said. Grown-ups eat at the table tonight, she said. It's an adults-only dinner, sweetie. Jake's face turned red. He looked at me and then looked away. Jake, I whispered. He ran a hand through his hair. It's just for tonight, Em, he said softly. Sarah planned it. But, I started, but Sarah cut me off. She gave me a tight smile. We want to talk about boring things, grown-up things, she said. You'll be more comfortable in the kitchen. The snacks are in there. It hurt so bad, I felt my face burn. I wanted to eat with you, I said, my mouth barely moving. Jake kept his eyes on the table. I waited for him to speak up for me. He used to fight for me. He would always stand up when somebody was mean at school. Now he just stared at his hands. Sarah nudged my arm. Come on now, she said. Let's not make this an issue. I wanted to yell. I wanted to throw my scrapbook at the wall, but I just nodded and took the plate. My hands shook. I walked to the kitchen. It looked so empty. I sat at the counter on a tall stool, my feet dangled. There was no napkin, just a glass of water with a lemon inside. I could hear laughter in the dining room, like I was listening to a party from outside the door. My food tasted like paper. I tried to eat, but my throat felt closed. I wanted to cry. I wanted to call Mom, but she was far away on her trip. The voices got louder. I heard Sarah say, she won't mind. She's used to being by herself. Jake kind of laughed, but he sounded funny, like someone told him a joke that wasn't funny. I squeezed the scrapbook tight on my lap. I was going to wait for the perfect time to give it to Sarah, but now I just wanted to hide it forever. A chair scraped. I quickly wiped my eyes. Jake peeked around the corner. "Hey, Em," he said in a small voice. "You good?" "No," I said, and I was surprised by how quick my voice came out. He looked at me for a second, like he was going to say something. "I'll hang out with you later, okay? We'll play video games, promise." He tried to smile. "I don't want to play games," I said. My words were like rocks. "I wanted to be with you, and Sarah." He looked sad, then scared. "Let's not get upset," he said. "Okay, please, Em." "Why can't I eat with you?" I asked. I saw his face twitch, so I looked away. "It's not my idea," he said quickly. Sarah called. "Jake, our guests are here." He jumped. "I gotta go, Em, sorry." He disappeared. I sat in the quiet kitchen. Everything felt wrong. The grown-ups, voices and laughs floated around me, but I was invisible to everybody. I pulled out my journal and scribbled, "Tonight, I wish I was anywhere else." Suddenly, I heard Sarah's voice come from the dining room, sharp and clear. "Honestly, Jake, she's so awkward. I hope she doesn't come every week." I froze, my heart in my throat. Did Jake really want me here at all? I squeezed my fists. Tears pressed against my eyes, but I would not let them fall, not yet. Then, from the hallway, I heard my brother's voice getting louder. He sounded upset. I could not believe what he was saying. My heart started pounding. I knew something was about to change. I stared at my laptop screen, trying to look happy. My parents were smiling at me through the video call. Mom's hair was messier than usual. Dad waved. "How's everything, Emily?" Mom asked. "Are you having fun with Jake and Sarah?" "Yeah, it's great," I lied. I forced the biggest smile I could. "We had dinner, it was nice." Dad grinned. "See, told you Jake could cook." "Uh-huh," I said. My voice felt thin. I tried not to look at the corner of the guest room behind me. It was empty, except for my backpack and that dumb, unused scrapbook. Mom leaned closer to the camera. "Tell Sarah thank you for having you," she said. "I will," I said, even though I probably wouldn't. "Sweetie, we're proud of you. Call us anytime, okay?" Mom said. "Love you," Dad called out. "Love you both," I said. I almost whispered it in case my voice cracked. When the call ended, the room felt cold and way too quiet. I sat on the bed and hugged my knees. My stomach hurt. I looked down at my journal on the pillow. I opened it and started writing. "Dear Diary," I wrote, "sometimes I feel like I disappear here. Jake doesn't see me like before. Sarah acts like I'm a stain on her pretty floor. Am I being too needy? I just want to belong. Maybe I'm too much." A tear landed on the page and made the ink run. I remembered when Jake was my hero. When I was little, I had a bad dream and screamed in the middle of the night. Jake came running, even though he was half asleep. He sat on my bed and said, "Monsters can't touch you when I'm around, Em." I always believed him then. Now I wish I could. I heard voices in the hallway, not soft, happy voices, but sharp. I pressed my ear to the door. Jake and Sarah were talking. "She's your sister, Jake," Sarah said, her voice cold. "She's always around. I need us time." "She's only here for a few days," Jake said. He sounded tired. "Can't she sit with us sometimes?" "I didn't ask for a teenager in my house. This isn't babysitting," Sarah said. "She just wants to be included," Jake said. Sarah laughed, a mean, fake laugh. "She's so clingy. Let her grow up. You spend too much time worrying about her feelings." Jake got quiet. "I just think." "No, Jake," Sarah snapped. "If you start giving in now, she'll never leave. You said you'd put me first." There was a long pause. I felt my heart beat really fast. "I know," Jake said, but his voice was weak and small. "You promised, Jake," Sarah said. He sighed. "Okay, Sarah, fine, whatever you want." I backed away from the door, my heart pounding hard, my hands shaking. I wanted to scream or cry. I felt like the whole world was tilted the wrong way. Jake used to be strong. Now he just listened to Sarah and left me behind. Did he ever really care? I hated that question even popped into my head. I slid back under my blanket. I squeezed my pillow and wished I could go home, even if Mom and Dad weren't there. I wished Jake would stand up for me, or just visit my room and ask if I was okay. A tap came at my door. It was soft, barely there. I pretended to be asleep. I didn't want Jake to see my red eyes. I didn't want him to say sorry if he didn't even mean it. You awake?" Jake said, his voice almost a whisper. I closed my eyes tighter and didn't answer. After a moment, I heard him sigh and walk away. When the house was quiet, I pulled my journal close and wrote, "I don't know who my brother is anymore." I thought about sneaking out and calling Mom, but I didn't. I just wished she'd know how I felt without me saying anything. A car horn sounded out front. I jumped. For a second, I thought someone was coming for me. I peeked through the window, but it was just the neighbor leaving. For a long time, I stared at the ceiling. My heart felt full of rocks. I told myself I would try again tomorrow. I always do. But I heard Sarah laughing from the living room. Then I heard Jake laugh, too. He used to laugh like that with me. I pressed my face against the pillow. The sad part was, I still missed my brother, even though he was right down the hall. I wondered if things would ever be the same again. And right then, I felt my phone buzz under the blanket. I picked it up. I saw a text from Sarah, just 3 words. "Don't be difficult." I gripped my backpack straps as I waited at Jake and Sarah's door. I kept hoping things would get better over time. Maybe Sarah would change. Maybe Jake would see how she treated me. But every visit felt just the same or worse. "Hi, Emily," Sarah said when she opened the door. She didn't smile. She never really smiled at me. "You can put your bag in the guest room." "Okay," I said. My voice sounded small. Jake peeked around the corner from the living room. He waved. "Hey, Em," he said, but it was fast, like he didn't want Sarah to hear. I put my bag in the room. I could hear Sarah setting the table, but she didn't call me to help or anything. I had started bringing my own snacks each time. It made me feel less lonely to have a granola bar or a piece of chocolate hidden in my pocket. Dinner started. There was space at the table, but Sarah put a plate on the counter again. She tapped it with her nails. "Yours is here, Emily," she said. "We'll be out in the dining room." I nodded and went to the kitchen. I opened my book and tried to read, but my eyes felt hot. Why didn't they just want me with them? I pulled out my homework and tried to do some math. The voices from the dining room were easy to hear. Sarah was laughing, but her laugh always sounded mean when I was around. Sometimes Jake's voice was louder, but it never lasted long. Later, I put my dish in the sink and tiptoed toward the living room. Maybe I could join them just for a moment. I wanted to tell Jake about my school project. I wanted to just sit with him. I heard Sarah talking to Jake. She didn't see me. Neither of them knew I was there. "She keeps trying," Sarah said. "She always brings snacks and a book like some lost puppy." "She's just a kid, Sarah," Jake said, but he sounded tired. Sarah kept going, pretending to talk in a silly voice. "Can I sit with you guys? Can I help? Can I do your dishes?" She laughed. "Stop, Sarah," Jake said, but not very strong. Sarah rolled her eyes. "She's honestly so pathetic, Jake, trying so hard to be included. Why can't your sister just get it?" I couldn't breathe. I leaned against the wall, my whole body shaking. I wanted to run away, but my feet were frozen. My cheeks were burning, and my heart was pounding. Jake didn't say anything after that. The room felt too quiet. I walked back to the guest room and closed the door. I sat on the bed and hugged my knees. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. I thought about the old days, the days when Jake would stick up for me. He once yelled at a boy in 6th grade who called me weird. He picked me up and spun me around and told me, "Nobody messes with my sister." But now he didn't say anything. He just let Sarah make those jokes. He let her shut the door on me. I opened my journal and started writing. I tried to stop my hands from shaking. "She said I'm pathetic," I wrote. "I heard it myself. Why does Jake help me? Why do I keep hoping things will change?" I wiped my eyes and stared at the wall. I made a promise to myself right then. "One day," I whispered, "she'll see who I am. I won't always be invisible. I will show her I matter, even if they don't let me sit at their table." Just then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Mom. "Hope you're having fun, we miss you," she wrote. I stared at the words for a long time. I didn't know how to answer. Should I tell her the truth? No, I couldn't, not yet. I walked to the little window and looked out into the dark. I hugged myself. Tomorrow I would bring an even better snack and work even harder on my school project. I would do whatever it took. Maybe, just maybe, things would change. As I stood there, I heard voices again. This time Jake was talking, but his voice broke off. I pressed my ear to the thin wall. I heard Sarah say, "If she keeps coming, I might not stay." Then I didn't hear anything for a long time. My hands shook. What was Jake going to do? Would he really choose me? Or was I going to lose my brother forever? I tugged on my dress and tried to make my hair look nice in the car window. Mom's birthday dinner was supposed to be special. We were all together for the first time in months. Jake and Sarah showed up late, as always. I wondered if they had argued in the car. Jake's face looked tired, and Sarah looked bored, but she gave Mom a big hug anyway. In the restaurant, everything felt shiny and grand. Soft music floated in the air. A man smiled at us as soon as we walked in. "Welcome, everyone. My name's Mr. Andrews. I'll be your server tonight," he said. He looked at each of us with warm eyes, but when he looked at me, he smiled a little longer. I felt my cheeks blush. Sarah looked at the table and frowned. "Let's have Mom in the center, me by Jake, and Emily down at the end," she said. I looked at the spot she pointed to. It was at the edge, kind of away from everyone. I glanced at Jake, hoping he'd say something. He just looked at his shoes. Mom tried to help. "Emily, switch with me," she said. But Sarah shook her head. No, we've already chosen spots. Let's not make it hard for the waiter," she said. Mr. Andrews saw me sitting alone. He came over gently. "Excellent choice with the pasta," he said as I looked at the menu. His voice was kind. "That's actually my favorite dish." "I love pasta," I said. It was true, though I felt shy saying it. Sarah looked over my shoulder. "No, she should get the chicken. Emily always picks the plain things," she said, rolling her eyes. I felt a sting inside. Mr. Andrews leaned closer. "Pasta's a wonderful choice," he said to me, smiling like it was just for me. "I'll put it in special." My heart felt a tiny bit lighter. I nodded. "Thank you," I said. During dinner, Sarah talked a lot. She told stories about her wedding. "It was the best day of my life," she said loudly, looking right at Mom. "Emily wasn't in any of the real photos, of course. She just didn't match the aesthetic." People at other tables turned to look. My face burned with shame. "I did my best to help," I said quietly. Sarah smiled that fake smile. "Well, it was a very grown-up event." Jake didn't look at me. He just kept cutting his meat into tiny pieces. Mr. Andrews brought my pasta and set it in front of me gently. "Here you go, chef," he said quietly. "You have great taste." I smiled up at him. "It looks so good," I said, and I meant it. When dessert came, Mom grinned at me. "Did you try the chocolate cake, Em?" "No, but I want to," I said. Sarah laughed. "Emily has a sweet tooth," she said. "She probably eats dessert in bed." I pressed my lips together. I wanted to disappear. Mr. Andrews gave me an extra big piece of cake. He winked. "Special for you," he said. After dinner, as we started to leave, Mr. Andrews caught my arm. He slipped a folded note in my hand. "Don't let anyone dim your light, young lady," he said warmly, so only I could hear. "I see something special in you." I stuffed the note in my pocket, my heart pounding. In the car, Sarah kept talking about her wedding. "It was perfect. I just wish everyone had fit in," she said. I looked out the window and tried not to cry. When I got home, I sat on my bed and opened the note from Mr. Andrews. The handwriting was messy, but I could read every word. "Don't let anyone dim your light. I see something special in you." Right then, Jake knocked on my door. He looked nervous. "Em, you okay?" he asked. I shoved the note in my pocket fast. "Yeah, I'm fine," I said, but I didn't look up. He sighed. "I'll talk to Sarah," he said, but his voice was so quiet I almost missed it. I didn't believe him, not anymore. I held the note in my fist and closed my eyes. I promised myself, one day, I wouldn't sit at the edge of the table anymore. But as I drifted to sleep, I heard a ding from my phone. It was a message from a number I didn't know. My stomach flipped as I read the words. "Hi, Emily. This is Mr. Andrews from tonight. If you ever want to talk, I'm here." I stared at my phone, eyes wide. Why would he want to help me? Should I write back? I didn't know what would happen next, but for the first time in a long time, I felt a little bit of hope. I tore open the envelope from the school. "Congratulations," it read. I had won first place for my cookies in the baking contest. I almost screamed. Instead, I grinned so hard it hurt. I rushed into the kitchen. "Mom, Dad, I did it," I said. "I won the contest." Mom spun around and hugged me. "Emily, I'm so proud. I knew you could do it." Dad high-fived me. "Do I get to try a cookie champion?" he said, grinning. I nodded and handed him one. "Wait until you taste these." At school, people started calling me Cookie Queen. I joined the culinary club. Every week, I baked something new. Cookies, cupcakes, muffins. I felt happy every time my friends cheered. I even sold cupcakes to teachers and neighbors. I never thought I could be good at something, but baking felt like magic in my hands. One weekend, we had a family party. I made a big box of my very best cookies. I tied the box with a ribbon, proud and nervous. Jake and Sarah were coming. I wanted to show them what I could do. When I arrived, I walked up to Sarah. "I made these for everyone," I said. "They just won an award." She didn't even smile. "Oh, how nice," she said, looking bored. Jake peeked at the cookies. "Did you really win, Em?" he asked. He gave me a quick smile, but it faded fast when Sarah glared at him. I watched everyone open the box. People grabbed cookies and took bites. I waited for Sarah to try one. I hoped, just for once, she would say something kind. Instead, Sarah reached for the box and accidentally knocked it off the table. Cookies tumbled to the floor. "Oops," she said, rolling her eyes, not even trying to sound sorry. "They're just cookies. No big deal, right?" I stared at the mess. My cookies crushed and dirty. My heart sank. I felt hot tears in my eyes. Jake saw my face and looked away. "Sarah," he started, but his voice was weak. Sarah just laughed. "Don't worry, Emily. It's just a hobby anyway." I picked up the broken cookies quietly. No one helped, not even Jake. That night, I hid in my room. I didn't want to cry, but the tears came anyway. I clutched my pillow and stared at the wall. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. A call from a number I didn't know. I almost ignored it, but then I answered. "Hello," I said. A warm voice spoke. "Hi, Emily, it's Mr. Andrews. We met at the restaurant last year." I sat up surprised. "Oh, hi," I said, still sniffing. He said, "I hope it's okay I called. I got your number from the reservation list. You stood out to me." My heart pounded. "Why?" I asked. He laughed kindly. "You remind me of me when I was your age. I could see you were hurting, but you still held your head high." I blinked, kind of shocked. "Really? Sometimes I feel invisible," I said. "I saw you," he said. "I could tell you have heart, that matters." I smiled a little. "Thank you," I said. "That means a lot. Today wasn't great." Mr. Andrews said, "I don't know everything, but I wanted you to know someone sees how amazing you are. How's your baking going?" I gripped the phone tighter. "Pretty good. I won a contest," I said with just a bit of pride. He cheered. "That's wonderful. See, I knew you had something special." There was a pause. "If you ever want to talk or learn more about cooking, maybe you could come by the restaurant sometime." My mouth dropped open. "Really?" I said. He said, "Of course. You have the spark, Emily. Never let anyone make you feel less." I felt hope blossom in my chest. I'd love to visit. I've dreamed about working in a real restaurant. Mr. Andrews said, "We'll make it happen. Keep believing." We said goodbye, and I sat in my room, a smile growing bigger and bigger. Then a loud knock came on my door. My heart jumped. I heard Sarah's voice on the other side, sharp and angry. "Emily, I need you out here, now." I clutched my phone and wondered what she wanted. Would Jake speak up for me this time, or would I have to stand alone? I took a deep breath and walked to the door, knowing life might never be the same again. The next afternoon, I sat in my room staring at my phone. I kept reading Mr. Andrews' message over and over. I didn't know if I should reply. My hands shook a little. Did he really mean it? Did he really want to help me? I typed, "I'd like to talk," then erased it twice before I finally hit send. Right away, a message popped up. "Do you have time for a call? I'd like to hear about your baking." I grinned. No one ever said they wanted to hear about my baking except Mom. When he called, his voice sounded warm. "Emily, it's good to hear from you. Is now a bad time?" "No, it's a good time. Thank you," I said. He said, "You sounded down yesterday. Want to talk about it?" I took a breath. "Sometimes I feel like I don't belong anywhere, except when I'm cooking or baking," I said. He said, "I felt the same way growing up. My family called me names. They laughed at my big dreams. They never thought I would make it in the food world." I was surprised. "Really? You seem so happy at the restaurant." He laughed. "I worked hard and ignored the voices telling me I fail. It took a long time, but now I own part of that restaurant. The ones who tried to hold me back, they don't matter anymore." I felt tears in my eyes. "Sarah always pushes me away," I said. "Jake never helps." He was quiet for a moment. "That must feel lonely," he said. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "Very lonely. Cooking is the only place I feel safe," I whispered. He said, "Then keep cooking. You have a real gift, Emily." I said, "I wish I had somewhere to use it." He laughed kindly. "Would you like a job at the restaurant? Even just part-time. I could teach you. You'd learn real skills. I think you'd be great." My mouth fell open. "Me, really?" "Yes, you," he said. "I saw that spark in you. You're a hard worker. You care about food and you care about people. That's what matters." I sniffed because I was about to cry from happiness. "I want to learn everything," I said. He said, "Good. Then come by next weekend. I'll show you the kitchen and introduce you to everyone." I said, thank you so much." After we hung up, I jumped up and down on my bed. I was so happy I almost forgot everything else. For the first time in forever, I felt like my life might change. Later, Jake knocked on my door. He looked nervous. "Who were you talking to?" he asked. I said, "A friend from the restaurant, Mr. Andrews." Jake frowned. "Why's he calling you?" "He offered to teach me things," I said. "He wants me to work at the restaurant." Jake looked surprised. He said, "That's cool, Em, really cool." I smiled. "I think so." He lowered his voice. "Don't tell Sarah, okay? She doesn't like you going behind her back." I stared at him. "Why won't you ever stand up to her?" I asked. My voice shook. Jake stared at the wall. "It's not that simple," he whispered. I said, "It looks simple to me." He walked away without saying anything else. That night I couldn't sleep. My heart pounded with excitement and fear. I kept thinking, what if I mess up? What if I'm not good enough? But then I remembered Mr. Andrews' words. "You have a real gift, Emily." I fell asleep with a smile for the first time in so long. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen and found Sarah standing by the fridge. She glared at me. "Were you talking to someone last night?" she asked. I swallowed. "Yes, Mr. Andrews. He's going to teach me about cooking." Her eyes went cold. "You should have asked me," she said. "You need permission before you take any jobs." I felt anger rise in my chest, but I tried to keep my voice steady. "It's my life. I want to do this," I said. She shook her head. "If you want to live here, you follow my rules," she said. I stared at her. For a second, I saw fear in her eyes, just a flicker. I said, "I'll do what's right for me." She turned away fast. "We'll see about that," she said. I ran to my room and closed the door, my heart racing. Would Jake ever help me, or was I really on my own? My phone buzzed again. A new message from Mr. Andrews popped up. "Don't give up. I'm rooting for you." I pulled my pillow close, knowing things were about to change, but I didn't know what would happen next. I walked into the restaurant feeling both scared and excited. I wore my good shoes and the necklace Mom gave me. Mr. Andrews met me at the door. He smiled so wide that I forgot to be nervous. "Glad you're here, Emily," he said. "Thank you for the chance," I said. My hands were shaking. He led me to the kitchen. It was loud and smelled amazing. People shouted orders and pans clanged. I'd never seen anything like it. "This is the heart of the place," he said. "Ready to learn?" "I think so," I said, even though my voice came out tiny. He showed me how to chop veggies and mix batter. He watched as I tried. "Good job," he said. I felt so proud I thought I might float. During break, we sat outside. Mr. Andrews asked, "How's it going?" "I love this," I said. "I feel like I belong for the first time." He nodded. "You work hard and listen. You can go far." I smiled. "I want to own a restaurant like you someday." He looked at me kindly. "Then keep going. Don't give up no matter what anyone says." I thought about Sarah. My hands curled into fists. That day, I washed dishes, peeled potatoes, and even learned to make a fancy sauce. I didn't care how tired I got. I wanted to remember everything. After my shift, Mr. Andrews handed me a folder. "This is for you, notes and recipes. You impressed everyone today." I carried it home like treasure. When I got back, Jake was in the hallway. "Hey, Em, how'd it go?" he said. "It was amazing," I said. I told him everything. For the first time, he smiled a real smile. "I'm proud of you, Em," he said quietly. I looked at him and asked, "Why does Sarah hate me so much?" He dropped his eyes. "Sarah's difficult," he said. "Sometimes she makes me feel small, too." "I miss when you used to help me," I said. He sighed. "I know, I'm sorry. It's just hard, Em. I don't want another fight." I felt mad. "You're my brother," I said. "You said you'd always be there." He hung his head. "Sometimes I feel trapped. If I make her upset, she gets mad for days, but I don't like how she treats you." "Why don't you do something?" I asked. My voice was shaking. "I wish I could be stronger," he said. He looked so sad I almost cried. I left him standing there and went to my room. That night, I opened a new online journal. I started writing about my day at the restaurant. I wrote about cutting onions with tears in my eyes, from both the onions and my feelings, about Mr. Andrews cheering me on, about how I wanted my own restaurant one day. I wrote about Sarah, too, how her words stung and how Jake never stopped her. Writing made me feel better, like I was letting the poison out. The next time I worked, I told Mr. Andrews, "I want my restaurant to be a place where everyone feels welcome." He clapped me on the back. "That's the best dream there is, kid." I nodded. No one will ever feel left out in my place. As I walked home that evening, it started to rain. I wrapped my jacket around the folder of recipes. My heart felt full. I felt brave. When I got home, Sarah was waiting for me in the kitchen. She looked angry. "Where have you been?" she said. "At work, the restaurant," I said. She frowned. "Did Jake say you could go?" I stood tall. "I don't need anyone's permission." She glared. "You live in my house. You follow my rules." I felt a burst of courage. "Maybe not for much longer," I said. She looked shocked. "What's that supposed to mean?" I grabbed my journal and shut the door behind me. For the first time, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I could change my own life. Just as I was about to go to bed, my phone buzzed. I read the message and my eyes went wide. It said, "Emily, we need to talk tomorrow, Mr. Andrews." I sat up straight. I wondered, what could be so important? When I look in the mirror now, I barely remember the girl I used to be. The shy girl hiding in the kitchen with a plate on her lap. I'm 24 now. My hair is tied back and I wear the chef's coat with my name on it. I feel strong when I see it. No one tells me where to sit anymore. Today, my parents hugged me tight outside the big hall. "You did it, Emily," Mom said, her eyes shiny. Dad smiled so wide. "All your hard work paid off. We are so proud." My heart felt light. Graduation from culinary school. After the ceremony, I went straight to the restaurant. My dream with Mr. Andrews finally real. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The sign glowed above, "Welcome Table." All the chairs circled the biggest table I could afford. No one would ever eat alone here. I walked around, checking everything. Mr. Andrews called from the kitchen. "Chef Emily, come see this salad. I need your opinion." I laughed and hurried in. "You already know it's perfect," I said. He winked. "You're the boss now." I shook my head. "Best team always." He put his arm around my shoulders for a second. The door opened and people started coming in. Friends from school, neighbors, people from the old neighborhood. Some I barely remembered, but they hugged me like family. My hands shook as I served the first plates. But then I heard laughter at every table. I saw people from different backgrounds, old folks next to little kids, everyone together. My eyes got misty. This was what I wanted, a place where no one would be left out. A week later, after we got another 5-star review online, Mr. Andrews rushed up to me waving his phone. "Emily, some food critic from TV is coming." I gasped. "Are you serious, TV?" He nodded. "Says she loves your story and wants to visit tomorrow." I could not sleep all night. I thought about the old pain, Sarah's words, and how small I once felt. Now people traveled from other towns just to sit at my tables. I felt brave, and a bit scared, too. The next night, the restaurant buzzed with excitement. All the tables filled up fast. My staff and I cooked as quickly as we could. I saw people pointing at me and whispering, but they smiled. Not a single person sat alone. Every chair was filled. Right before closing, Mr. Andrews came up behind me. "There's someone here to see you," he said quietly. Suddenly, Jake walked inside. Jake, older and thinner, but still my brother. His hair looked messy. He held a bouquet of sunflowers and a card. I froze with a mixing bowl in my hands. He hugged me tight. Wow, I can't believe it's really you." I looked at his face. He looked so proud and his eyes were a little wet. "Jake," I said. He nodded. "I read that review. I saw your name everywhere and I needed to tell you I'm sorry." My heart beat so loud I could barely hear. "Sorry for what?" I said. He took a shaky breath. "For letting you eat alone, for not speaking up, for being too scared. You deserved so much more, Emily." A tear rolled down my cheek. I just wanted my brother. He nodded. "You always had me, even when I didn't deserve it. I'm proud of you, so proud." Mr. Andrews wiped his eyes with his sleeve. "Me too, Chef." Jake smiled at Mr. Andrews and then at me. "Can I try your famous chocolate cake?" he asked. I laughed through my tears. "Only if you sit at the biggest table with everyone else." He grinned. "I wouldn't want it any other way." When Jake finally left, he whispered, "Thank you for forgiving me. I didn't know who I was for a long time." I hugged him close. "We both know now." After he left, I looked through the big windows at the street full of lights and people. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. I picked it up and held my breath. A new message popped up. "Hey, Emily, I was hoping to bring someone to your restaurant. Her name is Sarah. Are you ready?" I stared at the phone, my heart racing. Was I ready to see her again after all these years? I stared at Jake's message for a long time. My heart thudded. Did I want to see Sarah again? Could I handle it? I took a deep breath and wrote back, "Of course. Everyone is welcome at my table." The next afternoon, I couldn't sit still. I kept checking the front door of my restaurant. Mr. Andrews noticed. "Nervous?" he asked. "A little," I said. "Jake is bringing Sarah." He raised his eyebrows. "You ready for that?" I shrugged. "I think so." He put a hand on my shoulder. "You have nothing to prove," he said. "This is your place." I nodded, but my stomach felt tight. I kept thinking about the old days. I remembered sitting in kitchens alone. I wondered how I'd feel when I saw Sarah's face. Suddenly, the bell over the door chimed. I looked up. There they were, Jake looking nervous. A small girl stood beside him, clutching his hand. She must be his daughter, my niece. Sarah followed, looking just the same as before, except her hair was longer and she wore fancy new earrings. She looked around the restaurant, not seeing me at first. Jake grinned and waved. "Hey, Em," he said. His voice was soft, like he didn't want to scare me. I walked over and tried to sound calm. "Hi, Jake. Hi, Sarah." Sarah blinked at me. She didn't recognize me right away. "Hello," she said, polite but cold. Jake said, "Emily, this is Maddie. Maddie, this is your Aunt Emily." Maddie hid behind Jake's arm. I knelt down and smiled. "Hi, Maddie," I said. "I'm happy you're here." She peeked at me and nodded. Sarah looked around, then squinted at my name tag. "Oh, you work here," she said to me. "That's sweet, good for you." I felt anger spark inside, but kept my voice steady. "I'm glad you came." Sarah didn't even look at the menu. "Jake, do they have gluten-free? It's hard to find a place that understands real food allergies." Jake pointed to the menu. "I'm sure they have something, Sarah. This place is pretty popular." Sarah leaned back in her chair and looked around like she owned the place. She started talking about her new job and her new house. She didn't look at me once. I wanted to shout, "This is my restaurant. You told me I would never do anything important." But I didn't. I served their table like I served everyone else, kind and careful. Mr. Andrews checked on them with me. He smiled and said, "Everything okay here?" Sarah barely glanced at him. "Fine, thank you. We're very particular," she said. Maddie pulled at my sleeve. She whispered, "Can I have the grilled cheese?" I grinned and nodded. "One grilled cheese coming right up," I said. Jake smiled at me. "Thanks, Em." Sarah looked surprised, like she expected me to mess up. As they ate, Sarah kept bragging. "My new boss says I am the best in the company. I run everything now, you know." Jake said nothing. He just watched me quietly. I felt my hands tremble as I brought over dessert. Sarah looked up, frowning. "I really hope you got the order right," she said. I just smiled. "I made it myself," I said. Sarah looked shocked for a moment, then tried to hide it. "Oh, good for you," she said, her voice fake. Jake took a bite and his eyes filled with tears. "This is the best cake I've ever had, Em. I mean it," he said softly. Sarah just picked at her food. She still didn't look at me. I watched Maddie eat her grilled cheese and smile. She swung her legs under the table. Mr. Andrews walked past and whispered, "You're doing great." I nodded, but my heart felt heavy. All this time, Sarah still didn't see me. But was that really what I wanted now? As I turned to help another table, I heard Sarah say to Jake, "Honestly, this place is overrated. I thought the owner would at least come say hello." Jake just nodded and looked at me. Mr. Andrews winked and said, "Don't worry, her moment will come." I wondered what he meant. Then he disappeared toward the kitchen, and my mind spun with questions. Did Sarah really still not know? Would I ever get to show her who I'd become? Suddenly, Mr. Andrews called out, "Emily, could you come to the front for a second?" I wiped my hands and walked up, my heart pounding. What was going to happen next?